What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful.com, here with a name you know. You've seen him really a little bit of everywhere, especially over the last couple of years. James Thorne. James, how you doing?
And love. I'm doing great, man. How's it going?
Doing good. I mentioned you've been a little bit of everywhere. I mean, in the NWA now, this isn't really your first foray in the NWA or anything. You've actually got some NWA title reigns to your credit from the TNA days. What's it like being back under that NWA banner, so to speak?
It's actually really cool because when I started training wrestling, I was about to have a match on USWA wrestling, and then I broke my shoulder and I wasn't able to have my match. And for all those who know, USWA did like the studio wrestling, and so I kind of felt like I lost out when I wasn't able to wrestle there. But now, since Billy Corgan has brought the NWA back to like studio wrestling, it's pretty cool, especially with all the experience I've had now and traveling these big arenas and all that, and coming back to a studio where it's more, where you got to know what you're doing, or they'll definitely let you know.
It's funny. I was going to ask you about the studio wrestling thing. Did you grow up watching studio wrestling?
Yeah, because I grew up in the Middle Tennessee area where, USWA was. It went from Memphis to Nashville to Louisville. That was kind of the loop that they were doing. So me and my grandfather would always catch them when they came to Nashville, and it's actually pretty funny because there's when I was 9 years old, I got a Polaroid made with Dutch Mantell. And when he was with the USWA Wrestling, and I still have that Polaroid, and I showed him when he came to TNA. I showed him that Polaroid. He goes, "How much did I charge you for that?" I said, $10. He said, "Well, hell, I'd have charged you more if I knew you was going to become a wrestler."
One of the, there are the online wrestling databases and all that, and one of the earliest matches that I saw in there when doing my research was actually an NWA TV taping at the Nashville Fairgrounds in like 1998. It says it's for MCW, so I mean, it's kind of wild how that connection has followed forever. And I mean, even I see that you worked the NWA 52nd anniversary show, and then of course all of the great title reigns in TNA. I mean, the NWA seems like it sticks with you all the way through.
Yeah, it's like that, the crazy girlfriend you just can't get away from. But yeah, it's pretty wild, and it's cool to see it come back full circle. And, the things that they're doing now with the NWA, it's kind of opening a lot of eyes again.
Now, you've worked TV for a lot of companies, and some that were kind of running dual shows like the ROH New Japan stuff, and I know that you did stuff with NXT, with NWA. Now I know you've made appearances like under the AAA banner. What sets this version of the NWA apart?
I think it's just the studio setting in itself, because to me that kind of sets the men away from the boys, because like I said, with studio wrestling, it's pretty intimate, and the crowd is right there on top of you, and if you know what you're doing in there, like I said, the crowd, they're going to crap all over you, and they'll let you know. And it was really cool because, before the show, Dave Marquez went out there and said, "Hey, we're not for who to boo. You do what you want to do. You paid your money, so you cheer and you boo who you want to cheer and boo." So that was pretty cool.
The wrestling landscape is in a wild position, and I mean, I know you did some WCW appearances, so you saw that WCW, WWF type of thing back then, but you've been through an awful lot of stuff. Did you think that the wrestling landscape would get quite like it is now, to where there's programming every single day?
I didn't know about every every single day. I just tweeted out yesterday. I was like, this just in from the Heavenly Press. I was like, due to all the wrestling, this is to Thursday night. Sincerely, God. Just because it just seems like because I want to watch wrestling. It just seems like wrestling is everywhere now, which is pretty cool, because for so long when I was on planes and stuff, I would meet like closet wrestling fans. They're like, "Oh yeah, I kind of watch it," and I talk about business guys and all this stuff. But now it seems to be back to the forefront where it's cool to be a wrestling fan. Like you don't have to hide that you're a wrestling fan anymore.
What were your thoughts when you heard that the NWA was going to be under the watchful eye, so to speak, of Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana? I mean, that news did turn some heads, and I'm sure that you've worked with Billy Corgan in the past in TNA wrestling, but what were your thoughts on that?
You know, it's one of those things that as soon as I hear something like that, I'm like, well, how is this guy going to be able to explain to me certain things when he's never been in the wrestling ring? You know, and same for Dave Lagana, but you know, with all the packages and stuff that Lagana has put together.
Lane closure ahead in 2.3 miles.
Especially for.
You're still on the fastest route.
I don't know if you can hear my GPS going off on me. But sorry about that. But you know, all these packages that Lagana's put together for these 10 pounds of gold, and you know, and then once I finally sit down and just kind of talk to Billy, you know, he's really smart to the wrestling world and just the history of wrestling. So it was really cool to be able to get that aspect of him and kind of learn from him, because he can, you know, he can give you definitely ideas that you wouldn't think of on your own.
Now, admittedly, I got to say I am not a country music fan, despite being from Kentucky, but I am a Long Necks and Rednecks fan. I love that song. It's awesome. Had the unfortunate passing of Troy Gentry a while back. Maybe share any memories of that, because I really dug that song. I liked the connection. I thought it fit well. It was one of the underrated all-time entrance themes.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun definitely making the video to it. And a funny backstory is I've known those guys for a while, and we actually got so drunk doing that music video that they had to play the Grand Ole Opry later that night, and they had to postpone the Opry show for like 45 minutes to an hour just to sober up on the bus.
That is amazing. Of course, beer is, you know, kind of tied to you. You've been the TNA World Beer Drinking Champion. It's funny, I always list like Eric Young's accomplishments and how he's won every title in that company, including that title somehow. You had the Boozer Cruiser. Whose idea was that to kind of implement that into your entrance?
That was actually mine. I was actually just sitting around, and I saw a commercial for it, and I was just like, man, like, I wonder if I can get one of those and convince TNA to not only let me drink beer, but not even walk to the ring anymore, just ride the Boozer Cruiser to the ring. And so finally, you know, I talked them into it. You know, they were kind of just like, we don't know. But as soon as I started doing it, you know, it just caught on. And, you know, there's one time when I had a keg hooked to it, and I was pulling Bobby down the ramp as well. You know, we had a lot of fun with that thing.
It's like the southern version of the WrestleMania 3 carts.
Right. Yeah, but mine went a little faster. Their things take forever.
Oh, man. So another one of my favorite moments in history was that AMW the Triple X feud. I love that. There was that Elix skipper spot. You were kind of down in the corner there as Chris was taking that Hurricane Rana off the top. What went through your head when you saw that, and like what kind of preparation did you all go into to prepare for something like that? One of the craziest spots still in wrestling history.
There, you know, the funny thing is we all thought Elix was insane because they could not get the cage up in time for Elix to practice walking on top of it. So when he walked across of it, that was the first time that he did it. And so I'm laying there in the corner, and at first I'm like, wait, I'm not far enough away from Chris. When he lands, he's going to like kick me right in the face. So I scooted further under the rope and just sat there and just like, please, God, don't let anyone die here. We're just trying to get out of this ring. And literally I was praying under that ring. And then, you know, once the spot hit and we found out everybody was okay, it was just one of those things that, you know, you just kind of knew that this could be, you know, talked about for definitely a long time.
Yeah, it's one of those things that really put that stamp on TNA in my mind. And just, I was like, I got to watch this every single week. I got to watch this. I mentioned how the wrestling landscape has changed. Podcasting is a big part of that. And, you know, we see guys like Bruce Pritchard and Eric Bischoff and Tony Schiavone do podcasts. There's not really one out there that's like a TNA retrospect. Is that something you've ever been approached about? Because, I mean, you were there through almost all of it.
I was there through all of it from day one all the way to 2.5 years ago, and I've seen a lot of stuff I probably shouldn't be talking about as well. But it's one of those. It's one of those things that no one's really, talked about it like that. But, now that you bring it up like that, to me, that would be something that was, could be pretty cool. And, you could bring, past wrestlers from, the early days of TNA on there as well,
People would love to hear you talk about Awesome Kong beating up Bubba the Love Sponge.
That was one of those things. It's like, this is going to be very bad for him quickly.
When I think I did a show with Vince Russo once, and he was like, I had to break up the fight. And I was like, as if that couldn't get more ridiculous. Vince Russo is breaking up a fight between Awesome Kong and Bubba the Love Sponge. That's phenomenal. I mentioned you.
Just for you to say Vince broke up a fight
I know.
Crazy enough.
James, let the people know where they can follow you on social media. And, of course, everybody check out NWA Power Tuesdays at 6:05.
Yeah, definitely check out the NWA Power. Like I said, it's something different, especially to the, the new crop of people watching wrestling. It's really old school, but you can find me on social media on Twitter and Instagram at James Stormbrand. I do not have a Facebook. Repeat, I do not have a Facebook. Just somebody at the show a couple weeks ago said, "Hey, I've been talking to you on Facebook." I'm like, "No, you're not."
Oh,
They're
no.
like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, you're talking to James Storm right now, and I'm telling you, you're not talking to me."
Well, James, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time.